It was just this Christmas that went by, and things were getting busy. I had to start buying presents for my parents, my brother Matt, and my three sisters Laura, Sarah, and Linda. I'd just finished shopping, but I still needed to grab a present for my little cousin. She's not very hard to shop for since she's only 4 years old. She likes things like Care Bears and My Little Pony. She really liked, and I say liked for a reason, Max Ruby. So, when I decided to go looking for a present, I figured something like a Max Ruby DVD would have been perfect since she liked to watch it on a daily basis. However, Christmas meant that many of the online DVDs were sold out on most places. I went to look on eBay as well but figured I couldn't trust what condition the DVDs would have been in. So I was stuck in a rut for a while until that stupid package arrived. I was at home, still scrolling for a stupid DVD until I heard the sound of something being pushed into my letterbox. I caught a hold of it before Luna, the dog, did and looked at the package. It seemed to be wrapped fairly badly, with what looked like grease marks and stains on it. Naturally, as anyone would, I decided to open the package. Inside was something that I couldn't explain. It was a Max Ruby DVD, but I'd never seen one like it online. It was like some little kid had drawn on the front cover with a marker. The title was just Max and Ruby, with what looked like a poorly drawn illustration of Max and Ruby on the front. There were no names or anything, but on the back, it had a list of 4 episodes, all with blunt titles. Episode _0011. Episode _0012. Episode _0013. Episode _0014. I quickly gave the DVD a watch over. To my surprise, all the episodes were in perfect quality and seemed to have no flaws. It was as if it was a real DVD, just with a homemade cover. The only thing I thought appeared odd was the episode selection screen. The episodes had names, but they were all titled Max and Ruby 1, with the numbers being changed as it went down the list. The actual selection screen was just a plain white screen with black text and nothing else. After giving it much thought, I decided to change the cover to something a little nicer by printing out a DVD cover that I'd found on Google and tracked down, and the names of the episodes so they were labeled correctly. So I left the episode list screen alone because I figured it was self-explanatory. Christmas went by, and things were fine. I gave my little cousin her DVD and she was happy with it all through Christmas. But that was only because she hadn't watched it yet. On Boxing Day, my parents and my siblings had gone out for lunch and left me to babysit my cousin. I wasn't too bothered about being left at home. I figured now was a good time to put on the DVD for her. I'd put the DVD in the DVD player and allowed it to play, while I was in the kitchen eating my dinner. From what I could hear, she just watched episodes 1 to 3 so far. I was just about to finish off my noodles when I heard my cousin screaming from the living room. Dropping everything, I'd run into the living room and saw my cousin curled up on the floor screaming. I looked up at the TV and I felt my heart in my throat. What I caught a glimpse of was one of the most horrifying things I'd ever seen. It was what appeared to be a frame of Max and Ruby standing next to each other, in complete darkness. But what made it so horrible was their lack of faces. They'd lost their noses and mouths, and their eyes were replaced with big black holes. The colors were a disgusting blood red, and there was faint static in the background. The sound was replaced with what sounded like the Max Ruby theme playing backwards, with the faint sound of static in the mix of it all. It had to be the most disturbing thing I'd ever seen, and it must have been on screen for at least 20 seconds before the screen went black and the TV turned off. Which was weird because TVs don't usually turn off by themselves. Luckily, I was able to calm my cousin down, telling her it wasn't real, and she just had a nightmare as she'd fallen asleep in front of the TV. However, I knew in my mind it was completely real. My parents had rung me up and told me they were going to be out all night, so this was going to be the best opportunity to look at this DVD more closely. I didn't mention it to them, and as soon as they hung up I grabbed the DVD before opening it on my laptop. As soon as it loaded I noticed that episode _0004 had now been replaced with R.I.P. Mommy and Daddy, which sent a deep chill down my back. since my cousin was now asleep. I plugged in my earbuds and put on some relaxing music on my phone so she could sleep without having to hear the DVD. Normally, an episode of Max Ruby would feature 3 short stories, but this episode only had 1. It started off quite happy. Max and Ruby were playing tag in the garden, and their parents were on the porch watching them play. However, something was off. The sound was playing in reverse, and the parents' faces were that of sadness. It panned to the mom and dad, and in a voice of deep sorrow, the dad spoke. "It's such a shame," he sighed. It then cut short to the sound of static and a loud scream, followed by the sound of 2 people choking. The sounds felt so real. It made me run to the bathroom and throw up. The scene then switched to both Max and Ruby standing in front of what looked like a gravestone labeled R.I.P. Mommy and Daddy. The 2 of them had no faces. At this point, there was also no sound, apart from faint static. This scene remained on screen for about a minute and a half, before it cut away to black. It then changed scene again, now showing Max and Ruby sitting in Ruby's room. Both of them were sobbing. The sobs were so realistic and heart-wrenching that it sounded like it was recorded from a real person mourning. What happened next was probably the most disgusting, yet saddest thing I'd ever witnessed. The scene had changed to Max sitting in his room. He was standing on a chair with a noose hanging from the ceiling. He placed the noose around his neck. My computer scene faded to black as the static got louder. Almost instantly, it then cut to Ruby walking in on her brother. She let out a horrific scream as the background turned black. The camera was panned on her face as the sound of a chair being kicked and the same choking from before began to play. The picture of Ruby's face stayed on screen for a good 5 minutes. This time, her eyes had returned as the same gaping holes. Ruby then started crying. And as before, there were no other facial features. The static slowly grew louder and drowned out the sound of her cries. The scene cut to black with the loud static. When the screen returned, Ruby was standing, now on her own, in the garden by 2 gravestones. One was labeled R.I.P. Mommy and Daddy, and the other, R.I.P. Brother. At this point, I'd already been sick and I was shaking. The episode seemed to have come to an end at last, as an old computer noise started playing. I was about to eject the DVD when the same image came up like it did on the TV. This time, however, there was text above the 2 rabbits which said, "Death is our only release." There were no credits or anything else. It stayed on this for a few seconds before the DVD finally popped out of my laptop. I sat there trying to contemplate what had happened. In my shock and fear, I made the foolish decision to break the DVD up as much as I could before leaving the house. Afterward, I shoved the pieces down the drain. Thankfully, I kept a few screenshots and saved them to my laptop. The next couple of days went past without anything unusual happening. I had a few nightmares about that DVD, but luckily that was all. My cousin had gone back home along with my aunt, my uncle, and my other cousins. It was a late night and my parents and my siblings had gone out for dinner, leaving me to watch Nickelodeon on the TV. I heard what sounded like someone posting something through the door. At this point, the DVD had left my mind since I hadn't told anyone about it. However, it all came flooding back when I looked down at the letter in front of me. It was just messily folded up and said, "You're our only release." No. Just no. It couldn't come back to me. There was no way. I'd already destroyed the DVD, right? I didn't know what to do. There was no hope for me. I was just about to burst into tears. But then I had an idea. I could destroy it like that DVD. So, I destroyed it and put it down the drain. I was so relieved to see it not come back to me anymore. And just as I went inside, my favorite show Max Ruby was on the TV. The episode of it was exciting, and it made me all happy again. My parents and my siblings came back later that night, but I didn't tell them about the letter. Everything has been back to normal since then. If you ever see a Max and Ruby DVD like this, don't watch it. Please. Or you'll have the same nightmares like I did.